Hey everybody, this is Joey, and I'm doing another video for my wife being out of town. So the wife's away, and I'm going to make YouTube videos. I'll try to look directly at the camera as best I can. Yeah. So I just watched a YouTube video. It's actually a podcast. It's called Coder Radio, episode 62, title fizzbuzz. And in it, they were so this podcast is about computer programming and software development, and some of the related issues. Like they mostly talk about career type stuff rather than just specific development type issues. So anyway, it's a neat show talking about a topic that a lot of people don't talk about. So I watch it fairly regularly. It's a weekly show. I watch it fairly regularly. So anyway, they're talking about this test. I'd never heard of this test. It's called fizzbuzz, Fizzbuzz, and let me pull this up real quick. Okay, so the fizzbuzz is apparently a thing they use in the industry to separate the wheat from the chaff, I guess you would say. So if you were to give someone this test, you could determine, and I'm sorry if my computer is making noise in the background. I don't have a good solution for that. Anyway, it's sitting in a closet, but I had the closet door open, so it does no good. Anyway, so this fizzbuzz test, you give this fizzbuzz test to people who are applying for developer jobs, and this tells you if they paid attention, I would say, in the first semester of any programming language class. So I think that, because I'm looking at it right now, and I'm pretty sure I learned all of this in the first semester of Java and the first semester of C++. So I've kind of got a little jump start on it because I basically learned it twice. And but the host of the show had apparently interviewed 10 people who were juniors and seniors, which I am taking classes online through a community college, and I'm going to graduate hopefully in December with an associate's degree, so I'm not even like that level. I haven't had any really advanced programming language classes. Everything I've taken has been introductory, and so this stuff is pretty simple. It's stuff that you will learn in the first semester of a class. Basically, well, let me tell you what the thing is. So the problem is, it says write a program that prints the numbers from 1 to 100, but for multiples of 3, print fizz instead of the number, and for the multiples of 5, print buzz. For the numbers which are multiples of both 3 and 5, print fizzbuzz, which I did. And I'm pretty sure I did it right. I'm pretty sure I did this correctly. Anyway, so unless I'm just stupid or something and missing the point. But I don't think I'm missing the point because, okay, so the host he had 10 applicants for an intern position at his company. And these were all junior and senior level computer science or computer information systems type students. So they should have had at least one semester of a programming language, and if they're a junior or senior in either of those, then they've probably had multiple semesters of at least one language, and probably exposure to other languages as well. So apparently 10 out of 10 failed this test, could not complete this task. And it's really simple. So I'm not really set up for this, but let me kind of move some stuff around on my screen here. I don't know if you'll be able to see this at all, but I'm going to try to show you my screen and disregard the mess here. But here's my solution right here. So 1, 2, fizz, because 3 is divisible by 3, so that's fizz. 4, buzz, because that's 5, fizz. 7, 8. So this is all they're looking for, and I'll show you my code. I wrote it in dang it, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I wrote it in PHP because I'm trying to brush up on my PHP a little bit. I've done some really limited stuff with PHP, but I just got a new job I'm going to be working on, and starting Monday, and part of that job is I have to have some PHP knowledge, so hopefully this works itself out. So I've been studying a little bit of PHP, and so I thought, well, I'll write this in PHP. It'd be a good little exercise to see if I know just kind of the basics. Because I'm sure I can do this. And I did. And I actually did have one error in the program. I forgot to put a $sign in front of one of my variables, which is kind of a peculiarity of PHP. But other than that, there was no... the logic of the program was not the problem. And I think it took me longer to get my web server up and running, and my program, my text editor and all that stuff. It took me longer to get all that stuff up and running than it actually took me to just write this program. Like, it's that easy. And the host of the show said what he was looking for was that you knew how to use modulus, which in computer programming, or he said mod. Mod is short for modulus, I guess. And what that is if you have a number like 12 and you divide it by 5, then it gives you the remainder. So like 12 divided by 5 is 2, and 2 point something, right? But it's not the point something, it's the remainder. So it would be 2, I guess. Because, remainder would be 2. So that's all modulus does, is it gives you, you take a number, you divide it by another number, and it gives you the remainder. Well, the reason this is important is because if you want to know if a number is divisible by another number, so if you want to know if a number is divisible by 3, or if a number is divisible by 5, like in this program, then all you have to do is find the modulus of that number. And if the modulus is 0, then you know that number is divisible. So obviously. So, well, maybe not obviously, but if you've made it this far into computer science where you're like, 3 years into it, that should be obvious. And so the kind of the logic, I'll tell you how my program works. So mine works like this right here. It's a for loop, and so basically what it's going to do, I'm trying to explain this in non-programming terms. So what it'll do is You'll start at a number, which I'm going to start at number 1, because you're going to go 1 to 100, and because you want to write a program that prints all the numbers from 1 to 100. So start with a for loop, start at 1, and go to 100, and for each one of those, it's going to print out the number, and then it's going to increment the number and run through the loop again. So the first thing I say is, if it's not evenly divisible by 3, and if it's not evenly divisible by 5, then print the number out. And it just, prints the number out. Then the next step is, if it doesn't meet either of those criteria, so if it is divisible by 3 or if it is divisible by 5, then it's going to check to see if it's divisible by both of them. So if it's evenly divisible by both 3 and 5, then it's going to print out fizzbuzz. So then it's going to check if it doesn't meet either of those criteria, then it's going to go to the next step and check one more thing. And it's going to say, okay, is it divisible by 3? Just by itself. And if it is, then it will print fizz. And then everything else will by process of elimination, be divisible by 5, so it'll print buzz. And I don't know if this is the most efficient way to do this. This is not, there's probably better ways of doing it, and more compact ways of doing this. And from a computer science standpoint, there's probably a better way. You could probably throw a function in there somehow and do it, in fewer lines. But this right here is real. Like the way I came up with it, it took me, like I said, maybe 5 minutes, and in a language that I don't really know all that well. And but to be fair, most computer languages are based off of there's a programming language called C. Most programming languages are their syntax is based off of that. And it's just, there's just like little I don't know why I keep trying to use that word. But there's little, just small, subtle differences between languages. So once you've learned Java or C or C++, or PHP, you kind of know, you can pretty much figure out the other languages just based, like you could go and read a program probably in one of the other languages and kind of figure out what's going on just based off of that. So I'm not doing a good job of looking at the camera, but I keep looking at my little program here. But I had no problems with I had no problems doing this right here, and it amazes me. First of all, it makes me feel better because I was extremely nervous. I'm extremely nervous about this new job I'm going to be starting because I don't feel like I know a lot of programming yet. And even though I've had a couple of semesters of Java and I've had a semester of C++, and I've done a little bit of PHP just on my own, years ago, and I've written some WordPress themes and stuff like that, which is not really programming, but I've worked with PHP just a little bit, so I know a little bit about it. So I was a little nervous about it, but this makes me feel a lot better, because if people who are 3 and 4 years into college and looking for internships, if they can't do this, that's bad. First of all, I don't want to say that's good, and I don't want to feel like I'm superior because I can do this. But it did make me feel better that I could do it, and knowing that other people could not do this, that clearly should be able to do it in a much better way than I can. So, but this is one of the things I think is kind of wrong with the way they teach computer science in college. It's very syntax oriented, and a lot of the focus is on getting the syntax right, doing things a certain way. And I don't have any real world experience. This may be exactly how things go down in the real world. I don't know. But I think they should try to teach more problem solving. Because that's all this fizzbuzz was if you know just you could sit down and write an algorithm out of how to do it, even if you didn't know how to write a computer program, you didn't know any computer languages. In plain English, you could write down, I need to check for this, I need to check for that, then, do a lot of if-then statements. And I think a lot of people could do it if they were to sit down and you didn't say, write a computer program. You could just say, tell me how to do this. I think a lot of people could actually do this. But if you haven't learned any problem-solving skills, then maybe you can't do this. And I think that's the problem that the host of the Coder Radio show is having, is he's coming across this thing where the people who are in school aren't learning problem-solving. They're learning syntax, and they're learning how to follow instructions. And because my second semester of Java, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I was not the best student, and I did do well in the class, but that's because I did the assignments, and I did them, and I read the parts of the book that allowed me to do the assignment, but I didn't get very adventurous with it, you know what I mean? I just did the assignments, and that was it. So I think that in college they should focus more on the problem-solving aspects of it, because that's what employers are going to be looking for in the future. Is not only do you know the syntax of a specific language, and the syntax is kind of easy to learn, but if you know what to do, when somebody gives you a problem, if you know how to solve that problem, and then you can write out, like I said, hand write out in plain English an algorithm, then you can Google how to do that in PHP. You can Google how to do that in C++. You can Google how to do that in Java. If you've got kind of a basic understanding of how programming works, and you've taken lower level classes of Java, then you can Google how to do some of this stuff. And it's not that easy. I don't want to say it's that easy, but I just feel like I feel like we're not getting enough problem solving. So to that end, I'm putting it out there. Let me look here, make sure I got this. Project Euler. I keep wanting to call it the Euler Project, but it's Project Euler. It's projecteuler.net. It's pretty neat. It's a website. Obviously, it's a website where they have problems, and I think there's like 400 and something problems now. I don't know. I'm trying to click on it. Yeah, 430. There's 434 problems. And if you can solve let's see, only 82 people have solved problem 415. So if you want to be a hero, go for that. The first problem, 313,478 people have solved. So, and I don't remember what it is. Multiples of 3 and 5. Oh, here we go. So it's not fizzbuzz, but it has multiples of 3 and 5 in it, which is funny. But Project Euler is a great place to learn problem solving. And I would not sit down and try to just straight up solve these problems just in my head, unless you've got a lot of math. These are math problems, basically. And some of them you can solve in your head. There's people on here that know a lot about math that can solve them in their head, and it's kind of a challenge to them. But you can also solve them writing computer programs, which is what I do. And I've solved 10 problems so far, and the first couple, the first 2 or 3 are pretty easy. And after that, they get really hard. And especially if you're not that great at math, which I'm not. So I think I kind of skipped around a little bit. Let's see. The highest one I've done, and 29,982 people have solved this one, is problem number 41, the pandigital prime. And this is when I did this one when I very first started learning Java, and it was problematic for me because I didn't know enough about how Java worked to really do it right. So I kind of brute forced it a little bit. And honestly, I've got my solutions saved somewhere, but I don't remember exactly where I have those saved. But I mean, this is a great way to learn problem solving. Is to go through these problems and do this stuff. And I think that if you're an aspiring computer programmer and you want to really learn how to solve problems and really get practice writing programs, then this is a good way to do it, because it doesn't tell you the answer until you're done. I'm sure you could Google it and find out what the answer is, but don't cheat, because you're only cheating yourself then. I mean, you can go through, if you want to go through here and Google all these answers, and you can, but you're not going to learn anything that way unless you're trying to learn how to Google stuff, which some people need help with, I guess. But it's really cool. What I do is I read the problem, then I try to draw in some resources, like if it has to do with prime numbers, then I'll read Wikipedia articles about prime numbers and things like that to find out how do you factor a prime, or you can't factor a prime number, but how do you find prime factors, and what is a palindrome, what is a pandigital number, things like that. So I mean, when I did that one, the pandigital prime, I didn't even know what a pandigital number is. I still don't know what a pandigital number is really, but so this is a great resource. There's if you're interested in math theory, there's a great YouTube channel called Numberphile, so I recommend checking that out. What else? Wolfram Alpha, and this is a search engine that you might have heard a little bit about. A few years ago, it kind of made a little bit of a splash, and then, but it's really good for stuff like this. It's really so if you wanna kind of do some, it's kind of a search engine for math problems. So you can like put in a math problem, or ask it what a prime factor is. I mean, so it can give you a lot of information that's math related. Where's some other, let me look, I gotta look here real quick. What are some other, Stack Overflow. If you're learning a language, if you haven't heard of Stack Overflow, that's any question you have is probably answered on Stack Overflow now. GitHub. Learn to use Git. That's another complaint of the Coder Radio host. He's getting people out of college who's never used version control before. And so learn to use Git, learn to use GitHub. If If you don't know what they are, look them up. GITHUB. Google that. You'll find out real quick what that is. And learn to use it. Learn to use Unix or Linux. Learn how to use VirtualBox. If you learn all this stuff, if you want to be a programmer, you learn all this stuff, I won't say you're set, but you're going to be way ahead of some other people, because that's learning the version control and stuff like that's going to put you way ahead of people. Because then he's right. There's not a class that teaches you version control in college. I haven't seen one anyway, and no one ever mentions it. It's not like the actual software development process is not discussed, as far as I can tell, in college. At least not on the community college level, for sure. But those are the type of things that I think people would really... That's stuff they need to be teaching in college. These are the skills they need to be teaching in college, and they're not doing it. I don't know what the problem is there. I think it's just you have to have a curriculum. You have to have, and it's got to be set. You have to have textbooks, but I'm not sure that you do have to have all that stuff. If you know what I mean. Like, do you really have to have textbooks to learn all this stuff? There's so much information on the internet now. You've got things like Project Euler. You've got tremendous amounts of documentation. And if you teach people how to set up, use free software, how to set up free software, because if you've got a computer and you can run VirtualBox, and you can run Linux, and then you can do everything within Linux, which is all free software. And why are you teaching people how to do things and making them spend all this money on software that nobody's going to use in the real world? Or you might, but you probably won't. And because I don't hear, like, when I see people talking about computer programming, they're not talking about how much they use Visual Studio 2012. And I'm sure there are thousands of people out there that use Visual Studio 2012 to write applications for Windows, but I see more talk about simple text editors and using version control like Git and all the free software tools. I see so much talk about that stuff, and these are the tools that real people are using on a daily basis. And I just think kind of the Windows centric textbooks and traditional learning methods are not how programming should be taught on a collegiate level. I think Richard Stallman, if you don't know who Richard Stallman is, look him up. He's a character. He thinks it should be, you should teach it like by apprenticeship, as almost as an art, or certainly as an artisan, as somebody who more as a like an apprenticeship, just not this rote memorization of syntax and doing specific problems and certain steps and all this kind of stuff. And I think this is what he's talking about when he's talking about those things. The problem solving is just getting left completely it's getting completely left out of it. So I rambled for quite a while and probably said more than I should have. And I'm getting tired. And my wife will be home not tomorrow, but Thursday. So, and I still have to render this video. So that's all I got this time. I'm going to stop the recording now. Have a good day.